Hey, deserving listeners, this episode we are starting over with a brand new Dungeons & Dragons campaign. If you're new to the podcast, we have been doing Dungeons & Dragons episodes occasionally. We did 15 different episodes on demonstrating Dungeons & Dragons and how to use it in therapy. And we did a whole storyline. If you're familiar with Dungeons & Dragons, we did a whole campaign and we wrapped it up. And then we talked later and said, well, what do we want to do next? Well, we said, well, let's just start over with brand new characters and a brand new storyline. And so that's what we're going to demonstrate today. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. Who are you, Humberto?
My name is Humberto Castañeda, and I don't know who I will play yet. I mean, I do know, but it's a mystery right now.
My name is Adam Davis. I'm one of the executive directors of Game to Grow, and I'm playing Girkas.
My name is Adam Johns. I am the other executive director of Game to Grow, and I am continuing to be and always will be your friendly neighborhood game master.
So again, if you're new to the podcast and new to these sorts of episodes, this episode is going to be a lot different than other episodes. We are going to be playing Dungeons & Dragons in this episode. If you're interested in that sort of thing, stick around. If you're not, I might skip it. No offense taken. We're not going to be talking about psychology, really, and so just know all that stuff. In this episode, you could call it Session 0, in which we begin with all the beginnings that need to be begun in order to begin a campaign together. And in this episode, Johns is going to demonstrate how he might develop a campaign with the people that he works with. Adam Johns and Adam Davis work with people that are looking to develop social skills and self-esteem. And so I'm guessing, Johns, tell me if I'm right or wrong, that you do this sort of Session 0 prep for campaign work with your participants.
We do, although this is actually a great opportunity because normally, especially when we have brand new players who've never played before, we wouldn't do this level of prep and really character work and world building in the first session. Usually the first session is we want to get people playing the game as fast as possible, jumping right in, having a great time, and not getting too bogged down into like the rules of character creation or this sort of ephemeral, up in the air world creation stuff. This is actually something that we would do with a group of players who we'd already played a quarter with or a couple of quarters with, where now they know how the game works, they know the excitement of the game, and now we can dig deep into creating some stuff all together in a collaborative way, and they know why that's important and they know how that's exciting.
If you want to know more information about how to use Dungeons & Dragons and Minecraft and other kinds of games in therapy, in individual therapy, group therapy, in the classroom, then go to gametogrow.org and you can learn more. You can buy products, you can get training, you can learn stuff on the website, and go to gametogrow.org. Any other plugs, Davis?
I would make sure that if you want to know the latest about our training program, go to gametogrow.org/newsletter and sign up for our newsletter because we have regularly updated offerings. We have webinars showing up every week at this point. So if you want to learn more about that, go to gametogrow.org/webinar. But the best way to stay on the cutting edge of therapeutic gaming is go to gametogrow.org/newsletter and sign up for that newsletter.
So for those who don't really understand Dungeons & Dragons, I want to just give a brief explanation. And it's a game like no other. If you've never played an actual pen and paper role-playing game, you probably have a hard time comprehending what it is. And we'll demonstrate it. You'll see what it actually is. But in this episode, we're going to demonstrate how do you build the imaginary world. Think about when George Lucas sat down to write Star Wars for the first time. He said, well, in this world, you got Wookiees, and you've got an empire, and you've got these rebels, and you have X-Wing fighters, and you have TIE fighters, and you have this Princess Leia, and you have the plans, and you have droids. And that was just all invented in his head. He could have said anything at that point. And then he set off to write a story with those characters interacting. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're going to build the world. We're going to build the characters. We're going to build the relationships. It's all collaborative. And it's like writing a novel with 4 people writing the script. And it's also based on improv. You'll see that once we launch into the story that Adam Johns Adam Johns is like the George Lucas, and we are Princess Leia, Luke, and Han, and we get to actually kind of write the story as well, depending on how we think our characters would react. Adam Johns does everyone else in the world. He does the weather, he does the sun, he does the gods, he does the bar owner and the random people that we interact with. Me and Berto and Adam Davis, we actually only control our one character. And that's how Dungeons and Dragons is managed. And occasionally there's a fight or something, and you roll dice to determine if you succeed or if you lose. So Adam Johns, launch us into session 0 of this new campaign. I couldn't be more excited.
Awesome. My very first thing that I want from all of you as players in our Session 0 campaign here is, as always, I'm going to ask a checking question. This checking question is actually not going to be a checking question for your character as well, because we're going to basically spend the biggest portion of today just learning stuff about your characters. So this is really a checking question for you as a player at the table, and a chance to reflect on the fact that you are many things when you walk up to a Dungeons and Dragons table. You are the character you play, you are the player at the table who's playing a game, and you are a person at the table who has wants and needs, like I need a snack or a drink of water. And all those things are things that you bring to the table all at once. And this question is really for you as a player, which is, what is your goal as a player? So there's a chance to think about, maybe your goal is, I just want to have a fun time, I want to crack some jokes and laugh. But your goal might also be, I really want to work on my accents and work on my voice acting. Or it might be, I want to make a character that has like a really deep, enriching backstory and a chance to like really role play in that character. Or it could be, I want to learn more about the rules of Dungeons and Dragons, and I want to know like how to really maximize the damage potential of the character that I'm playing. Any of those things, great answers, great opportunities. But this is a chance for you to reflect in our game that we're playing over this longer campaign that we're starting. What is your goal as a player?
I'll say my goal is, this might sound, I don't know, sort of trite, but is to have fun, but to more specifically how we build a story together and those critical moments where there are decisions to be made between A or B or C, where you have to choose between rushing into combat to save the day or save this person over here or run. I don't know. I'm not describing it very well, but it's essentially the fun I get from being in a story, actually being Luke Skywalker. Obi-Wan Kenobi has just been struck down. What do I do? How do I feel about that? What's my next move on that? What does that mean? How do I deal with that? How do I avenge his death? What's the plan? That's tremendously fun to me. So I'm basically saying my goal is to play Dungeons and Dragons.
If I may, it actually kind of sounds like your goal is to have adventure.
Yeah.
Because there's lots of parts of Dungeons and Dragons where people are like, I just want to go shopping. I want to spend some money in town and buy some stuff. But all the stuff you described is really about adventure. It's about those critical moments of decision making in character and about your character and through the adventure itself. But to go through an amazing story is sort of your goal there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Awesome.
So for me, my goal is to not play it safe this time. And what I mean by that is whenever I've played both D&D, but also any role-playing game pretty much on the computer or on video games and stuff, whenever I have to create characters, what I usually do, so the fantasy I tell myself is, all right, for this first run-through, I'm going to create a basic barbarian type character. So whatever it is, Diablo, or pick your thing. I try to pick okay, just something that's going to work well with like an axe. Like forget even like sword and a shield. I just want like an axe, like a big two-handed axe. And I'm going to maximize my strength. I'm going to be stupid. Great. Because I find it a lot simpler. But then the thing is, I never end up getting around to the second playthrough where I was like promising myself I would have done the more complex wizardy type characters. Granted, I did play Diablo a few times, and I did end up playing a few of the classes. But that's usually what happens to me. So with our last campaign, I did a similar thing. It was pretty much a dumb brute with lots of strength and stuff. And it was totally fun. And there's something freeing about that for the role-playing side of things. But this time I want to challenge myself. I want to have to learn a little bit more about all the little rules and have to be thinking, oh, what spell should I use and all these things. And also from the role-playing side of things, he's not going to be, this character is not going to be just like saying dumb things all the time. They're going to have their own little personality quirks and stuff, but it's going to be from a different angle. So yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome.
Yeah,
I'm
and
definitely
I'm looking forward to see Berto play, because I can't imagine you anything other than Grollo. You and Grollo are one person.
Yes.
So I have this suspicion that this character is going to incur some kind of brain injury and slip into Grollo because you just can't help making the character into your alter ego of the dumb
hilarious.
brute. Sorry, Davis.
That's all right. I'm definitely a story-driven player. Like I like the mechanics of the game just fine, but I really what motivates me as a player is the stories, and specifically the stories of Ensemble and Fellowship. And I thought our last campaign had a really nice mixture of those. And so my goal for this campaign is to try to meet some of that same sort of ensemble story. It really was a story of Fellowship in our three players. My goal is also for my character to be contribute to the story in a meaningful way. There was a moment when I was tweeting before our final episode, and I won't tell anyone what happens in case they haven't caught up yet, but I was tweeting before our final episode, and there was a fan who tweeted, "Oh my gosh, I hope Shush survives," and I like that. I hope people care about my character.
Aww.
Awesome. I guess I'll also throw in a goal. My goal with this campaign is I want to play around with some opportunities to deepen your characters and your interaction a lot more. This is a great opportunity for me as a game master to help lead you into even greater depths of roleplay and even greater depths of story that we can make together. And so my goal as a game master for this game is to explore some of that and take us down a little deeper into the rabbit hole of getting into character and being in character. And so I'm hoping to dive deep into that, whatever that means.
So are you saying that this campaign is going to be deeper and longer? Phrasing. Sorry, but
phrasing.
But
Somewhat uncut too.
Bigger, longer, and uncut. No, not necessarily longer. I don't know yet. But I do hope to give you an opportunity to even further deepen your characters. The interesting thing about making a character is that characters have such a wide range in what a deep character looks like as opposed to a shallow character. And there are many, many things that you do that make up the character that you create. And deepening your character doesn't mean necessarily making a character that's different from yourself or similar to yourself or any of those things. Those are all choices that you make as the character of what it is. What it means instead is how closely you understand who your character is, and how well you can use that then to dictate the choices that your character makes. And as a game master, it gives more and more opportunity for me to then put you in situations where you have to make hard choices. And ideally, the harder the choice, the more in character you can be in the moment to make that choice. But it requires players that are ready to be in character that way, that are ready to make those hard choices. Because if I turn to Umberto's Diablo character and said, well, your character might lose a pinky if they take this really powerful magic weapon, he'd probably be like, yeah, but it's like a really powerful magic weapon, and pinky doesn't do anything in the game. So I doubt he would even really hesitate at that choice.
That was my special pinky, man. I'm not gonna give that up.
It's very precious to you. But in this case, I want that to be as closely similar as you yourself having to make that choice for you as it would be for your character. In all the ways that is still healthy and not destructive, obviously. So that being said, now that we have some goals of player, I'm going to just really quick summarize what we're doing with this new campaign. So if you've listened to all of the old, the previous campaign, you saw that we were in this fantasy world and we were going through this amazing adventure. This new campaign is going to take place in that same fantasy world, but some period of time after the events of the previous campaign and with brand new characters. So before I have everybody introduce their brand new characters, what I want to establish is how far away is this from the previous campaign. I know this is after the previous campaign at some point in time, and it's in a different kingdom. It's going to be in a kingdom to the east of where our previous campaign took place, and we're going to create some of that world here in today's session. But what I want to know is how long has it been since the events of Pahiha and everything that happened there? Has it been 1 year? Has it been 5 years? Has it been 100 years? What kind of campaign do you as players feel like you want to play?
If only there was these like polyhedrons we could use to randomly decide how long it's been.
You could also leave it to the fate of the dice.
3 years
Apparently.
So I don't know.
12 years.
I feel like I would love for it to be something
12
that
years.
still had unanswered questions about it. I would love for there to still be a little bit of mystery around the events of Pahiha.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to have the option of some overlap between NPCs and PCs.
Like the legend of certain things has trickled through the last few years.
And my character is I often use characters from a world that I built as a DM, and in my world obviously it's not this world. My character is a contemporary of Thrain, but Thrain lives a long time, and so does my character. So that gives a lot of options in terms of if we kept that. But it would be satisfying to me, even if it's just in my head, that my character knows Thrain. You know what I mean?
I have a suggestion.
That's okay with me.
Because the epilogue that we did was like a year later. And so one thought is that if this was like a year later, what that would leave us an opening for is after this one is done, something else could happen where it revisits the other characters or something like that, but it like builds on itself rather than if this was like, 50 years later, 100 years later. It's like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'd be up for that.
So are we thinking, so we want it close by, then do we want it just like literally picking up right after the epilogue?
I was,
like this is just a year later,
suggesting,
but
1 year later, like in parallel, like, these characters obviously right now don't know what's up, but,
Well, they might. I mean, they might have heard about it,
No, yeah, right. Meaning, and they could be in contact. I was imagining that right this second, they're not in contact with each other, but.
As a story, just me brainstorming, just because this is in my world. Of course, it could be one of 100 brainstorms. Is in my epilogue, Thrain stayed in Pahiha and helped rebuild the Moradin temples, and help rebuild the society really, and based on Moradin as a even stronger force in town, and wanted to be close with his friends and his people that he had met. But Thrain eventually wants to go back home and to his temple, which is in Feather Falls, which is the town that he's from, which is where my new character, is also from. So you could have some kind of storyline that just kind of bumps up against maybe even the beginning of the story could be that somehow transitioning. Maybe all three of our characters from the last campaign come to Thrain's hometown just to kind of visit or something. And then that starts the next chapter or the next book with three other characters or something. I'm just throwing it out there.
I do think that Grollo right now is in one of those Rambo is retired things, but he might have to get called out of retirement by Colonel such and such at some point. So I think he's like doing the daddy duties right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Creddy could come along too. I'm
sure,
saying.
yeah. It could have been like he convinced her on a weekend retreat.
Yeah. Or Thrain just went back by himself to
Sure.
check in with his old master, his old, the head temple in Featherfall. So you might have gone back to, just visit and see what's up.
I do want to have a moment where my new character and Grollo do a very bromantic handshake, and then I get to say, CIA got you pushing too many pencils.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is just going to be a Predator reference, isn't it?
Wait, I forgot what your character is a monk, right?
He's going to be
Yeah, let's actually use that as a segue to get into describing your new character. So let's say I'm going to say it's been 3 years after the initial event that I guess 3 years after the initial event of Pahiha. So we're gonna pick it up 3 years after the initial events of Pahiha. So this will include the epilogue from the previous campaign of 1 year, and then a little bit of extra to also account for some unknown time of whatever happened to your previous characters, but still close enough for you for there to maybe be some crossover, and those characters from that campaign may play a role in some way, one way or another, in our new campaign as well. That being said, let's segue into introducing each of your characters. Who would like to tell us their character's name and a little bit about them?
I can go.
Go, Berto.
All right. So, my name is Ulian, or Ulian. I am what is called a Vedalken. I'm a Vedalken male. Vedalken are these tall, slender, blue people that are they basically used to be very, very aquatic creatures. And are now very human-looking, but they have this blue skin, and they can breathe underwater for a bit. They are, in this case, they're very, very interested in knowledge, and so my character is a geek. He seeks knowledge with all his passion. He was originally from this place called Ravnica. He is 60 years old, but these creatures live till 350 or 500 years, so it's he's fully mature adult, but he's got a ways to go, life-wise. He has been a researcher and a teacher most of his life, so he actually hasn't done much adventuring. He used to do adventuring when he was younger, but he then kind of really got into hitting the books. And then 20 years ago, he came across a very odd and old passage in a tome that was regarding some ancient guild artifact. These creatures are members of guilds, and they're very, it's a big deal in their community. But there's this artifact that could bring unimaginable knowledge about the mysteries of the multiverse to the wielder. And Ulian has been on a search since then for clues about where and how he could find such an artifact. But he mostly spent years just reading about it and not really having the courage to go out and really search for answers. But recently, he had a near-death experience, and that compelled him to go into seeking adventure and not wasting his life.
Awesome. That is great. That's an awesome starting backstory for Ulian.
Yeah, and a couple little things. He, his expression is usually, his resting face is a sly grin, so it always kind of looks like he's grinning at stuff, but that's just kind of his, You could see it in his picture in my character. I use Telly Savalas, but he walks in this smooth gait, and so he barely bobs up and down, so it almost looks as if he's gliding along. And he uses his hands almost excessively, while he's talking. And in fact, he also has this little tick with his right hand where he it almost looks as if he was clearing hair from his face, but he's bald. So... but he just kind of do this, and every now and then he does this. Anyone that's spent time around him notices, man, gotta keep an eye out for his hands.
That'll be good for an audio podcast.
Yeah. Well, he might accidentally bump into people and hit people in the face on purpose.
Fulfills an important role in the group of Ulian slapping somebody as he's trying to emote and talk.
Yes.
I like it.
Davis.
My character's name is Gerkus, and he is a dragonborn monk. As a dragonborn, it means he's sort of a bipedal lizard creature who is gold in color. My dragon scales are gold, and that because it ties to my dragon lineage, I have a little bit of a sense of superiority around my dragon origins. I feel a little bit like I'm kind of connected to some cool stuff. I can also breathe fire, which is kind of cool, kind of impressive. I also have the ability, and I haven't actually built a full backstory for this yet, so I'm hoping to do some of that today and some of that as the game goes on to sort of continue to build this collaboratively with y'all. I have the ability to shoot. I picture it sort of like laser beams out of my hands. It's really a spell ability that I have because of some stuff, but I also think it's cool that I can cast laser beams out of my hands.
That's awesome.
For clarity, Adam's character is a monk in the game, and so he also is very strong and very dexterous, and he's very physically capable.
Nice.
It is a radiant sun bolt, not an actual laser beam, but I'm sort of going with an X-Men vibe here, sort of a Magneto superiority vibe with a little bit of that. Seems kind of a fun angle to play, very different than Shush, who was always worried about whether he fit in. I think Gerkus is going to be a little bit of the opposite and kind of I wonder where everybody else fits in.
Interesting.
I like it.
My character his name is Blazenar Dardragon, but he goes by Uncle
Whoa.
Blaze. Uncle Blaze. And he's a older hobbit or Lightfoot halfling. And he is a owner of a business in a small town called Featherton Falls or Feather Falls. And his business, he's in exports and imports. So people coming through the town have to get down this trail, this switchback trail, and they can't use their regular carts and whatnot. So he is in charge of this business that employs a lot of dwarves actually to haul all this stuff up and down. And he has a giant warehouse where he deals and trades, and he has 11 siblings, and he doesn't have any children himself, but he has many nephews and nieces and many grandnephews and grandnieces. He's 101, and he's lived a long time as hobbits do. And he also deals in the black market quite a bit, and consider him like a mobster, like Don Corleone kind of a thing, where people come to him, particularly in the halfling community, but also humans and dwarves and others will reach out to him occasionally. And he doesn't consider himself like super important, but he does value money security for his family. He values loyalty. He does not appreciate the law, but he understands them and can pay them off at times. And in his younger years, he definitely used to do a lot of pilfering and thieving and that kind of thing. He doesn't want to kill anyone that doesn't deserve a shank, but he isn't opposed to it as well. But I guess in terms of trying to match up with Berto's storyline a little bit as he was talking, I was like, well, how can Blazonar's goals in life kind of match up with that? I suppose like looking for an artifact of some kind, or looking for a giant vat of gold somewhere, like a treasure trove of valuable items that one could sell and make a lot of money for his family, would be very motivating to him.
So is he a bit is he a bit of a family man, like in like you're saying, like the mob boss, like? But
Yeah.
my family comes first.
So people refer to him as Uncle Blaze because he is the head of the family in
Nice.
that region. and and he has ties. He has offshoots of the family in various communities around that town, and he's in control of the whole thing. But in terms of game motivation, he's I guess we'll work that out as to why he would leave his town.
Yeah, that's actually a great starting point. So we're gonna dive into that piece. Before we do, let's establish a little of the portion of the world that we are in. So this campaign is going to largely take place in a kingdom to the east. Whether or not we start there, as Kirk you mentioned, maybe we'll end up starting in this other area. Featherfall is the place where your character, where Uncle Blaze is from. That could be from this kingdom, or it could be another place, and then we travel into the kingdom. That's fine. But I want to flesh out a little of what this kingdom to the east looks like, and then we'll hop back over to your characters and do a little bit more backstory generation for your characters and how they fit into that world, because there may be an opportunity as we're creating this kingdom for you to go like, oh, that's the perfect place for my character to have been brought up, or that perfectly ties into a reason why my character might be there. So my first question for you is this whole kingdom to the east there's a big mountain range that basically separates the two kingdoms and makes it pretty hard to have really steady trade between the two kingdoms. There's paths that allow for some trade, but this kingdom to the east is largely independent from the kingdom that Pahiha is in. What is this kingdom called? We need to come up with a name for this kingdom.
Letters? Are we doing the letters?
Yeah, let's do letters. Hey, Adam, what's the first letter of the name of this kingdom?
R.
Kirk, what's the second letter?
H.
E.
And I'm going to say T.
Oh, I said E.
Yes,
Yeah,
but I'm
yeah.
adding a letter, yeah. Adam, we've got R-H-E-T.
K.
Kirk.
R.
Berto.
A.
I'm going to say H. That gives us the kingdom of Ret-Kra.
Retkra. Retkra. Oh, I remember.
And I think it's 2 words.
Retkra.
So the kingdom of Ret-Kra has some type of ruling body. Think of this like a country. This is a whole nother country. There is landmass that connect this country to the previous country you were in, but it is a different country with different customs and different culture maybe, but also certainly a different ruling body that's a part of it. That ruling body could be a king, could be a president, could be a whole council of people, it could be an anarcho-syndicist commune who take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer of the week. Whatever the case may be that you want to decide is up to you guys to determine the sort of government system that this other country has.
An executive council.
Okay.
Like a Senate.
Of wizards.
Ooh, and they have a trade dispute, and they have to have all these like Senate dispute arguments.
And blockades and long
And blockades.
conversations. But seriously, I like I don't know if it's of interest to you guys, but a Senate of Wizards.
Awesome. I think a Senate of Wizards is an awesome idea. Maybe a lot of disputes that are happening within this land. One of the things that's always a really good idea when we're crafting these campaigns, giving you a little bit of an idea from behind the scenes. I'm doing a couple of different things as a game master. The first one is for every idea that you put in, I'm coming up with ways in which I can use that to create turmoil in our world, in our game. So as we're creating the kingdom or the country of Ret-Kra, and talking about it being a Senate of Wizards, I want to think about like what are the problems this world, this kingdom has, because without problems we don't really have much of a story. And the same thing is actually true as you describe the backstories of your characters. I'm thinking of and looking for 2 different things. I obviously want to pick out the really important pieces of your character's backstory so I can incorporate them into campaigns in a larger way. But I'm also really looking at opportunities that I have to use what sometimes in Dungeons & Dragons is referred to as a knife. And knives are things that the players give to the game master, whether they do it knowingly or unknowingly, that the game master can use to stab them in the back later on. So these are emotional moments. They're emotional ties. For instance, Kirk's given me this great backstory about his character being the leader of this family, but he's going to go off on an adventure. And we'll figure out what the motivation is that's pulling him off on an adventure. But now I have a billion knives of everybody in the family that could totally wind up under distress, that could have problems, that may force Kirk to have to make really hard choices about what is most important to him in the world, and what he has to choose to give up or choose to pursue in order to make those judgment calls. And the same thing's true for Berger. You created all these great ideas for your characters and their pursuit of knowledge. And there's a great opportunity. There's a knife in there that is around the idea of like, is knowledge more important than, say, the friends you've made along the way? And that's a little cliche, but those cliches work really well for a reason. So I'm looking for all of those as you're giving me all those pieces of backstory. And the same thing is true as we're creating the world. I want to look for opportunities for humor, opportunities for distress, for turmoil, all of those things in the kind of world that we're creating. So that being said, we know that we have a Senate of Wizards. The next thing I need to know about this place is I need a culture of this place. So in order to come up with a culture, we're going to do the same holidays thing that we did at the very beginning of our previous campaign, which is that we're going to come up with a holiday that is celebrated in the kingdom of Ret Kra that helps give us a little bit of an idea of what kind of culture they have. Adam, what is this holiday celebrating? All holidays celebrate a history of something. What is this celebrating? Something that happened in history.
This holiday celebrates the advent of the sort of like the Industrial Revolution. It's like this landmark of productivity where it's actually the birthday of like this world's Henry Ford. It's like someone who turned Ret Kra into the economic powerhouse that it has become. So this is economic leader's birthday.
Awesome, I love it. And I'm assuming we'll go with a similar, maybe a little bit technological concept to go along with that. And they created. What do you guys think? Should we do airships?
Ooh, yeah.
And give the kingdom of Ret Kra a lot of airships. This
Love
is like
it.
a common trade within the kingdom. Maybe
What
something
did
they
happen to airships, man?
we
One
keep very,
accident
very
and everyone-
closely held secrets of the kingdom of Ret Kra.
Yes.
Perfect. So he is the revolutionary that created airships. We need a name for him. Does anybody have a name in mind, or should we do the one letter at a time thing?
This is the inventor of airships?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking a French name.
Leguillon. Leguillon.
L'Aiguillon.
L'Aiguillon.
I don't know how to spell it though. Leguillon.
Guyon?
Leguillon.
Is that a full?
L'Aiguillon.
Is that a full name or is that a first name or a
Leguillon.
last name?
It's Leguillon.
I think it's his last name.
Leguillon.
It's just
yeah,
his
it's
last
probably
name.
his last name. Leguillon. Everyone calls him Leguillon.
Is he
He can
still
be
alive?
Francois L'Aiguillon.
Well, it's funny you asked that question. No one knows what happens to him. What happened to him? It's like a Elvis kind of thing. Well, it's actually worse than Elvis because Elvis, like people say, well, he died in a bathroom. Like no one knows what happened.
I think the
One minute he was there,
mystery is-
and did he float off in one of his airships?
I think he sailed off, and it's sort of like Amelia Earhart or something.
Who knows?
So I think we will do this a little like, is it Japan that has like state-sponsored scientists? I can't remember. There's some countries that have state-sponsored scientists where they're basically given all of the resources of the country in order to work on stuff, but in exchange for that, they never really get to be like famous. They can't sell their ideas. All their ideas are owned by the country itself. So I think Ret Kra had this guy. He was a state-sponsored scientist or a country-sponsored inventor, and he created the airships and then escaped. Maybe with the intent
On
of
an
selling them.
airship.
Yeah, he made an airship basically to
seen that
fly
coming.
away on. And he left his plans, he left his stuff there, so they ended up still being able to create the airships. But there's still like this holiday So it's sort of an anti-government holiday, I think.
Yeah, it's like
a
a Guy
bit.
Fawkes kind of.
Yeah,
It is a little bit Guy Fawkes.
unless the government sort of co-opted his story and is like has made him into some like
Oh,
you know.
like a
Sure.
CIA double thing where
Yeah.
they want you to
Yeah.
have something to hate because okay, I like it. Well,
Yeah.
we don't know. We don't know which
We don't
one.
know.
know yet.
No one really knows
Yeah.
the whole story of Francois Leguion.
Francois Leguion. I love it.
Awesome. In this holiday, just to give it a little bit more of that flavor, what is a common ritual, a common tradition that a lot of people do, Kirk? What do people add to their holiday experience?
They make those little lanterns that float up into the air.
Makes a lot of sense. It's an airship
Yeah,
holiday.
yeah.
Everybody makes floating lanterns. That sounds perfect.
Well,
Is there like a
it's-
specific day they all release them all at once, like
On
sunset
it-
on a specific
on his
day or
birthday.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like there's sub competitions, right? Because like people try to make bigger and more elaborate lanterns, and sometimes there's accidents that happen, so they've had to pass some regulations. And,
It's getting, some lanterns are getting nearly as large as some of the smaller airships, and at that point you just gotta regulate
there's-
something there.
Yeah, exactly.
And the last thing is, of course, because I'm such a big fan of food, there is a specific kind of food that they eat around this holiday. It's kind of considered to be related to the birthday of Leguion. Berto, what's that? What kind of food is that?
Right. Well, actually, it's funny because you're right. Everyone does eat it. It's like super popular, unless you happen to be allergic or something. But no one knows why. Like, this isn't an obvious, like, well, it's little dumpling shaped like airship. No, no, no. This is a grain. It's a grain that's specific to that region. They call it like palt, like malt, but it's palt, and maybe it's Pawalt. I don't know, palt, and it is a grain. It's like the size of farro almost, but it's almost sweet, and so they make it into these porridges, and they add all sorts of little fixins in and stuff like that. But they only have it during like this time of the year. It's not only on this day, but like this is the season where they have it. And of course on that day they make special versions of it, and they do decorate, like they make these huge pots of it, and they do decorations on it with like shapes of airships and things like that. But no one knows why palt was chosen as like the special meal. Maybe it's because it's a regional thing. No one knows. It's just like the thing you eat.
This actually reminds me quite a bit of gefilte fish. I'm Jewish, and my family celebrates Passover. And gefilte fish is, it's really like, it's just mashed up fish kind of molded into a shape. And I love gefilte fish because I grew up eating it, but it is a very strange food. And there's also no particular reason why gefilte fish is like a seasonal thing. It really, to my knowledge, has no reason why it couldn't be all year round. But it's not. It's always right in that time of Passover. That's really when you eat it, and you don't really eat it any other time of year. So I like that idea a lot. So palt. I like that.
I think it has something to do with the fact that this grain is grown on the mountainside, and if the mountains are to the west of Ret Kra, then I imagine the sun sets in the west, and that's when everybody lets up their lanterns, their floating lanterns, is when the sun goes down. So there's some sort of fascination with the west, the impassable mountains, and the airships actually let people pass the mountains much easier. So it's probably this like concept of
That might have been where it originated. You're right.
Yeah.
I also kind of like the idea that maybe whether this is conspiracy theory or not, some people think that they build this grain and it's not terribly valuable otherwise, and the government who co-opted this whole holiday also used it as an excuse to basically get rid of all the stores of these grains
Man,
that
this
they
government.
can't get rid of.
Yeah.
So
Paul, it's not very nutritious or delicious.
You
Yeah.
can see the propaganda posters. Pelt. It's what's for celebrating.
right,
And like, do your part. Do your palt.
right. Be a state wizard, just like your hero, Leguion.
Leguion. And it shows like a cartoon of Leguion eating palt. I love it. Maybe the little disgusting is like no one discusses this, but it actually, other than the fact that it tastes slightly sweet, it's not great. It's like the texture's kind of muddy and it's not great. But everyone like quote unquote loves it.
But it's that like you eat it because it's that time of year.
Yes.
And
It's
then
like black-eyed peas
you don't
on
really
news.
complain when it goes away, which is also a lot like gefilte fish. Where like I don't need to eat it all year long. I'm okay with the fact that it's just this kind of holiday that we have that. Awesome. Okay. So we got a little bit of an idea of this area. Now, the region's a pretty large region, which gives us a lot of opportunity. It can have all the different kinds of environments. It can have jungle or desert or all of those things. And there may be a point later, I don't think we're going to do this today, but there may be a point later where we actually sit down and collaboratively make kind of a map together. That's something that we would often do in our games at the table, is make a map and have each person add a thing to the map. This area up here is the desert, or there's some mountains down here, and then even start naming stuff and creating backstory to the world itself. So we're not going to do that today. We're going to focus a little bit more on your characters and the story that we are going to pursue. But that's just something for you to keep in mind, is that the world right now is pretty open. We can do a lot with it. And that means maybe I'll add a lot of stuff to it, but it also means that if you want to say, oh, my character is from the northern part of the kingdom of Ret Kra, and up in the north, it's actually very hot. You have some opportunity to just sort of make those decisions and fill in some of the blank spaces, the tabula rasa that we have created of this kingdom. Awesome. Our next step is that we're going to dive back into character backstory. So for character backstory, we want to answer a few important questions about your characters. And Kirk and Umberto, you actually have already answered a few of these. So I'm going to lay a few of these out for Adam to answer. And you can think about the answer to these questions. But you can also, if you haven't answered it, then it gives you a chance to kind of dive in. So we'll do it with Adam. And then if you want to add any extra stuff for your characters along these lines, there's a perfect opportunity to do so. Adam, we know that Garcus is a gold dragon. Garcus.
It's like gherkin, but Garcus.
We know that Garcus is a gold dragon born, which is interestingly different from a specific dragon. Just for people who are new to Dungeons and Dragons, Dragonborn are humanoid creatures. They have scaly skin like dragons. Their faces kind of look like dragons, but they are generally human-sized. They're usually a little bit taller than humans and a little bit larger, more muscly. But otherwise, they are sort of close to human size. And you said that he has a sense of superiority over others. So what I'm curious about is he from like a kingdom of Dragonborn? Is he from like a big place or a small place, I guess?
He's a monk, and I'm assuming he's from a small place of probably also maybe like a school for the gifted.
Okay. But maybe a small town?
Yeah.
With a school for the gifted kind of thing?
Yeah.
Not like a huge city.
Yeah, like a hamlet.
And he went to this school for the gifted. Was he born in that town? Like he grew up in that town?
Yes, he's actually pretty he's pretty sheltered.
And then is the town a town of Dragonborn, or has he grown up largely in a place that's like surrounded by lots of different creatures?
Mostly Dragonborn. There's sort of it's like the Dragonborn have been sort of insulated here and sort of trying to harken back to like the dragon of origin. Mm-hmm. So everybody is like really believes very strongly about the dragon ancestry, and that's like infused in everybody's attitude around their Dragonborn heritage. It's like it's almost like a cast down. Everybody has this sort of like original sin kind of thing that they've got.
Like everybody sort of has a little bit of that sense of superiority. Like we are the chosen people a little bit.
But also simultaneously but I'm not a dragon.
Okay.
So it's like the sense of duty that is foisted upon those of us that are not full dragons. We're dragonborn, so we have to like carry the mark of shame that is not being a dragon while also being a dragonborn, which is better than all these non-scaled individuals that are around in the world. So it's like this really sort of fundamentally dichotomous understanding of their place in the world.
Awesome.
How do
I'm making this all up. If
Yeah.
there's if anybody
Yeah,
has any
that's great.
suggestions.
Well, how do
in the
people
moment.
see them? Like, are they scary? Are they like unknown? Are they part of the community but kind of separate? Like, if you came into Feather Falls, how would the people react?
I could let the game master chip in here a little bit, but I imagine that gold dragonborn are a little bit rare.
Like
I love
Dragonborn
that.
in general, or just gold Dragonborn?
Gold in particular. Like dragonborn are a type of humanoid that is around the world. They do breathe fire or other things, so they're definitely not to be messed with. Like even unarmed, they're a force to be reckoned with. And a lot of dragonborn have, because of their dragon blood, sort of key connection into this sort of ancient magic. So they're kind of a mysterious force to begin with. But the gold dragonborn are like kind of regal.
So even within a community of people that have a gifted school and that like see themselves maybe in between these worlds, but certainly above a lot of other creatures, you were high in that caste. You held a sense of regal placement within that, and understanding that like, oh, I'm a gold dragonborn. I'm a little special.
Absolutely.
Were your parents also in that community? Did you have also a good relationship with your parents, a not good relationship with your parents? What did that look like?
I'm gonna defy most of my characters and say yes. My character's parents were great. They were actually gave me a very good. There was lots of unconditional positive regard in my childhood. No orphan story here.
Awesome.
They worked really hard to get me accepted into this school for gifted children.
That's great. Oh,
Well,
so not
you just
everybody
gave
is
him
accepted into school.
You just gave him a dagger.
Yep.
It's totally
Twist
true.
the knife.
I've used it before on Adam.
That's true. That is true.
So they were wonderful parents.
They were great.
And it sounds like not everybody gets into the gifted school. Even though this is a small hamlet, maybe there's a not so gifted school and then a gifted school, or maybe people travel away if they're not able to get into the gifted school or something along those lines.
And people do travel to attend this school. They're sort of a lot of people try really hard to get noticed by this school.
Gotcha. But being a part of the hamlet, not a guarantee you're going to get in.
Right. People do move here to get sort of, right?
Sure. Yeah. Is the school mostly Dragonborn, or are there like a lot of other like really talented people?
It's either Dragonborn or people with dragon blood.
Oh, gotcha.
Dragon
So
ancestry,
maybe a
sort of
fair
like
amount of like sorcerers and stuff that also
Yeah.
kind of wind up there. All right.
It's like you had mentioned, Adam, your what is it called when people who are Jewish go to Israel?
Birthright.
Yeah, it's sort of like that.
Yeah.
It's like a birthright thing.
Awesome. And then is the school, it sounds like, teaches a lot of different stuff. What did you learn at the school? What did you study at the school?
I studied martial arts. It's about honing the body and the mind and sort of perfecting the body because, it is connected to Dragonborn heritage, or dragon heritage. So like elevating the body and the mind to sort of transcend back to the dragon origin is the goal here. And that's where I also, through mastering the body and mind, is where I have the ability to channel that radiant energy to be able to shoot radiant bolts out of my hands. It's like a plus.
Is that a singular talent of your character? Like most of your classmates could not have mastered something like that? Or is that like you took a class and everybody in the class had some level of proficiency with it?
It was more like a rite of passage. It was like my I don't know, my rite of passage to become an adult involved like meditating and connecting with the dragon spirits or whatever. And then I got this mark, and that mark of the dragon is what gives me this extra boon.
Nice. Awesome.
So not everybody has the same gifts.
You're like a Jedi with special blood midichlorian counts.
I have a lot of midichlorians, and I hate sand.
It's very high metachlorine count.
I hate sand. It's so rough.
It gets everywhere.
Of course, it gets everywhere. The Senate will never understand. Awesome. The kind of last question that I have for you in fleshing out your character at this stage is why did you leave? You had this great experience in this school, in this hamlet, but now you are an adventurer. So what pushed you into that?
I would love to know from my adventuring team how we might have connected, because this might be a sort of a cataclysmic event or a catalytic event, or it could just be like maybe it's a rite of passage. Maybe this is like the thing, like I'm a Mormon and I have to go out into the world, you know, so that I can come back or something. I forgot the name for that ritual, but I'm like digging deep into the religious traditions of not my actual life.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's just because I'm primed with Berto's story, but the artifact idea is a good, what do they call it in movies when you have like the thing that you have to get, the Tesseract?
Yeah,
it's a Macmillan or the MacGuffin.
The Macmillan, the
MacGuffin.
The MacGuffin.
The McDonald's. You have to get the McDonald's.
And so I
Golden
was
Arches
thinking like
artifact.
something in my warehouse that I run, an artifact came through or was stolen, or an important client had something stolen from there and has something to do with this, and I learn clues that brings me east to Ret Craw. Because I think it'd be interesting if the three of us don't know each other at the beginning, because last time Berto and I knew each other,
Right.
and we kind of skipped forward, and I thought it'd be interesting if we had to actually meet.
And like I said, my character, although of course stuff could have transpired since, but they are not an adventurer normally. They used to kind of do that, but not really in decades. But then they had this, I don't know what exactly, but they had this near-death experience, and they're like, "Oh God, I gotta go after my passion here and stop reading about it and go try to find it. And I don't care if I die because I almost died anyways."
Wait, is Yulian trans? You're referring to Yulian as they.
You don't? I mean, you should ask they. You should ask them. I don't know. Is that what I said? I don't know.
Yeah, you said they. Did everyone
yeah,
else hear? He said they.
But yeah, anyway, so my thinking is that at the very least, if he knew any of you, it would have been like some cat. It wasn't like you guys had adventured before or something. And he probably doesn't know you. But it would be really cool if we're all looking for something and maybe that something is related. That'd be cool. But I know that I've been in search of this, fabled artifact of incredible knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. In that case, so I was actually going to have you guys already know each other, but I love this idea that you actually have not met yet. We'll do a meet for your characters, a starting place for your characters.
Nice.
So I've got something in mind for that. But in that case, the thing that I need to know is...
Yeah, did you need to know something from me?
I do. So Adam, in that case, you don't know these characters, so you'll have to come up with the reason why you left your hamlet, and we also have to name your town. So do you have a name for your town in mind, or should we create one together?
I don't have one.
Awesome. Umberto, I'm going to have you start this one off. What is the first letter of the name of
V.
Gerkas's hometown? V. Adam, what's the second letter?
O.
Kirk?
L.
I'm going to add a T. Berto's back to you.
Oh.
Adam?
That's it. Volto.
Volto.
Like
Your
Umberto,
hometown,
but
the hamlet
Volto.
of Volto. And then the last thing is, why did you leave?
Well, I think I was sent on a quest.
Okay.
I think it might be a rite of passage in my mind, but I think my suspicions. I don't know if this is true for Gerkas, but I think my suspicions are that these Dragonborns are a little more on the Magneto side and a little less on the Professor X side, and I think the journey for my character is to transition, from a little bit of a little bit from the League of
Magneto
Evil
to
Mutants to the
Professor X.
X-Men. Yeah.
In that case, I'm gonna give you your quest. I think your quest is the school for the higher up graduates of the school. When you graduate, you are actually given a quest of honor to complete, and the quest of honor is to bring back an artifact for the school. And an artifact can be, it doesn't have to be a thing of actual magical power. It could be a thing of knowledge. It could be a thing of interest. But it's something to add to the wealth and power of the school in one way or another. And it is your sort of honor quest to complete. And when you complete it, you're given a special place of honor within the school, within the town as a whole. And certainly you bring a lot of honor and a lot of respect to your family as well. And so you've been tasked with this, and true to maybe Gerkas's nature, you're not going to bring back some piddly, tiny thing that barely adds any value to the school. I'm imagining that your character would want to bring back like the piece de resistance that the school will talk about for 100 years. This was the guy who brought back our most cherished artifact that anybody's ever brought back, something like that.
Yeah.
So you're basically on a quest to look for an artifact that is worthy enough to bring back to your school.
And I've also never really been outside of Volta, so everything is like pretty cool.
You get a chance to really see the world.
Yeah.
Which is
And,
maybe
like,
a part of the point of the quest as well.
Yeah.
Set
There's a lot
people
of like
up to
interesting foods to eat and people to talk to and stuff too.
I love it. Awesome. As I was doing that for Adam's character, Kirk and Umberto, were there any things like some of the questions that I was asking Adam's character that you want to add into your character backstory, like more about the name of the town that you're from, or more about the reasons why you left those things?
Well, reason why I left.
Yeah, it was a good.
Well,
place
yeah,
to,
I mean
to
to
do that.
get in line with the consensus here is, well, I guess if I'm going to make it up, I guess so he works with some very shady characters and very rich characters, and sometimes people want to store things in his warehouse because he has secret, cubby holes, and he's very dependable in terms of holding on to things. And a mysterious hooded figure came to his warehouse and asked him to hold on to a very, very important item, and he got and they paid top notch for high security, and he, normal sort of thing, not too, but big customer, but not anything too out of the ordinary. Went through his usual routine. His manager, he's not a hands-on guy per se. He has his lieutenants that do things for him, and they took care of it. And then in the middle of the night, it disappeared somehow. And well, I guess we'll say it's a mystery. They don't, no one broke in and took it. It just sort of just disappeared. And we're all freaking out because there's like an insurance on whenever someone drops something off, and it'll completely destroy our business. Like, we'll have to sell everything and we'll all be destitute if I can't get this artifact back. And I am sending a lot of people out that are competent to find it, but I happen to go, I'm following a clue to Retka.
Gotcha.
So a lot of other people, a lot of other nieces and nephews and siblings are also fanning out, doing their investigation, but I just am randomly going, well, I'll take Retka, you guys take that direction, you guys take that direction.
All right.
Awesome. So you're really just trying to keep your business alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And my and all my family fed.
The people who depend on it.
And
obviously.
potentially all of us alive, because if this hooded figure is an evil fella, maybe we're all going to be dead if we can't get this thing back.
So
like
here's my additions, I think. So I wasn't originally from Retka, but I have been living in Retka for like a decade. I mostly go from place to place. So I've moved around quite a bit, but in the last decade I've been in Retka. Maybe 5 years. I don't know. So like it's been many years. And the reason I usually move is just like because I hear there's really great libraries or really great sources of additional information in other places. but I don't like, it's not like some quest I go on. It's literally just like, okay, well, I'm going to go visit that city and see what they have in terms of books, right? And in terms of knowledge and who can I talk to. Well, I've been here for a while. And I was considering just kind of settling because, you know, the government has all these really nice programs and they just like seem to really like encourage people to stay and to, you know, pay their taxes and stuff. But anyways, I really enjoy the celebrations and things. And I was pretty comfortable just doing my research. But just recently, I was coming back late from doing some research at the library. And this like band of, I don't know what I'd call it, like ruffians or something, but they were coming through kind of in a hurry, and they bumped into me. And I'm a tall individual. I'm 6'4", and I'm hard to miss. I'm like, I have blue skin and stuff. And so I just like, you know, like, hey, watch where you're going, you know? And they like attacked me before I could even, you know, like know what was going on. They just attacked me and they almost killed me. Like I got really lucky. I managed to cast a spell and someone passing by like yelled or something, but I got really close to death. It was a real scary situation. And the thing that just like struck me is as they were beating me up, I saw something like one of them was holding something, and it looked really interesting because on the thing they were holding, like on the outside, there was a symbol. And I couldn't quite place it at first, but I went back and I checked a lot of my notes. And it was a symbol related to this research that I've been doing for years about this famed art or like artifact that some of our guilds used to talk about, that it was apparently supposed to lead to unimaginable knowledge for the person that wielded it. And there's not a lot of details, but it's what I've been after, because if I crave something, is knowledge. And so as I've been recovering from this attack and all these things, I've just been like, that's it. I gotta go. I gotta find out. I gotta find out what's going on. Maybe it's these people, but in any case, I'm not gonna stand in one place and just read books anymore. I'm gonna find this artifact.
All right. So normally what I would do is we would sit down and we would do the rumor system at this point. And it's called the rumor system. This is a way in which Adam and I have designed to create a storyline for us to follow. However, all of you have already sort of provided this opportunity for this storyline. So I will just do a really brief description of what the rumor system is, but I think we have our storyline already. Everybody's sort of tied by this artifact. And I think I have a way to introduce some of this and then set us on that journey. The way the rumor system works is that everybody inputs a bad thing that is happening in a place and a reason why all of the player characters should care about that thing. And there's an opportunity for everybody to then sort of fill in that sentence, whatever it is. There's an ogre who's attacking a town, and the mayor is offering up a great treasure reward. There are children that are going missing in this city, and you should do it because children going missing is really bad. Whatever the case may be, everybody sort of offers in their ideas, and then the players all vote on those ideas and then add more and more to that story as each other. And once you vote on an idea, everybody then sort of adds little pieces. And the great thing is, because it's a rumor, it sort of has that truth, half-truth feel to it. So anything that the players create, if they say there's a motorcycle gang that's destroying the village and all the motorcycle gang members are all full dragons, that might be your rumor, and it might be a wild rumor that doesn't fit well into your story, but the game master can then interpret it because it's a rumor. And so what was in the rumor motorcycle gangs might turn out to be like kart races, and it turns out they're racing these carts against each other in the streets, and that's what's sort of terrorizing people. And they say it's full dragons because all the carts are painted to look like dragons. And so you have a lot of opportunity to take that with the kind of grain of salt, the little grain of truth that's in there, and take that into a new direction in order to make it interesting for the players. What this really does is it tells the game game master what kind of story and what kind of mission the players want to go on. So rather than me as a game master going, I've got the entirety of open of all stories ever to try to send you on, I get to have your input as players to see what kind of mission you're most interested in and what kind of mission your character might be most motivated by. And motivation means the world in Dungeons and Dragons, because motivation is how you determine, how you get player buy-in, it's how you get players to be invested into their characters, all of those things. However, we've created this storyline. The artifact that all of you are looking for, that you have gotten hints towards in one fashion or another, is called the Book of Fate. The Book of Fate is a supposed rumored artifact. To your knowledge, you've never met anybody who's actually seen the Book of Fate. The Book of Fate is a tome that was supposedly dropped by one of the Fates, who are these mythical creatures who help determine the winding path of the choices that we make and how they affect the future. The supposed rumors behind the Book of Fate are that it can tell you a tremendous amount of knowledge about the past, about the present, and even about the future, as it dictates the many paths of fate that the future could take. Possession of the Book of Fate is said to imbue you with the knowledge of the things to come in a way that would allow you to impact them tremendously. The Book of Fate it's like the Fountain of Youth. It's like the artifacts of old, Excalibur, things like that. No one really, if it exists in this world, no one's seen it for a long, long time. Kirk, your character's interaction here, where you got your little seed of knowledge for Uncle Blaze, is that somebody had the key to the Book of Fate. There is a story of the Book of Fate that it's like a journal, and it has a key, a lock on the front of the book that you cannot read or open the book unless you have obtained the key. That was the artifact that was left with you. It is, who knows if it was real, who knows if it was a real thing, but the person who left it with you definitely had this mysterious vibe and really emphasized the idea that it was very important to them. The key is maybe worthless without the book. It probably does nothing at all by itself. But somebody who has the key or who wants the key may actually know where the location of the Book of Fate is and may be going after it now. So what you're looking for is actually the key to the Book of Fate, although obviously having the Book of Fate might not be a bad thing to help out your family or to sell it to the highest bidder. All of those are possibilities.
Adam, does Kirk's character know that this is the Book of, or know that this might be the Book of Fate?
The Book of Fate has a very distinct symbol on the cover. It is the symbol of the Fates, and the key has the same symbol in the sort of end of the key. Has that same exact symbol of the Fates in it. Kirk, I don't know if your character would have a lot of knowledge of the Book of Fate, but as much as you would recognize the symbol as much as anybody would, because it's like a fairy tale. It's something people tell children. Like, oh, the Book of Fate. Somebody like pulls out the Book of Fate, and then the hero's journey changes because the Book of Fate was read or whatever.
Yeah. I've seen many forgeries come through my warehouse.
Right.
Nice.
And at the very least, this one looked old, and it was.
And someone wanted it very secure. It wasn't
exactly.
just a trinket. Yeah.
Which is maybe the strongest indication that it might not be an actual forgery. I'll say, Umberto, your character, I'm going to learn everybody's character's names. Ulian. Ulian has been doing a tremendous amount of research about fate. The fates are an interesting topic for research because the fates exist in the world of the gods, but the fates are not ruled by any of the worlds of the gods and are not really even necessarily gods themselves. The fates sort of exist in this strange place outside of the realm of the gods because even the gods themselves have to succumb to fate and have to deal with the future and being an unknown place. And so the fates really have this sort of power that no other creature, no other being really has within the universe. Lastly, Adam, I think your character, Yirka, this rumor would be the perfect thing. Nothing would ever top the Book of Fate. If you could bring this to your school, whether or not you wanted to use it yourself, if you could bring this to the school, in the history of the world, no one would ever bring a greater prize to the school. You would have your family would be in honor for the rest of time as a result of that. However, there is something else that's actually pulling you all together. Yes, you're all pursuing this Book of Fate, but there's actually another thing that is your moment of meeting together, which is that you all share an acquaintance. This acquaintance is somebody that you met in your journey, somebody that you knew well enough to know that they were maybe good and you liked them, but not so well as to know much about their history or their backstory. And we're going to name them. Let's see. Let's do phonemes this time. Adam, give me a phoneme, like a ka, ba, ta. Awesome. Kirk, give me a phoneme.
Wah.
Berto, give me a phoneme.
Arr.
God damn it.
I can't roll my R's. That's gonna be a really tough one. Tough one for me. Thwar. And I can say I always pronounce it wrong. You guys can pronounce it right for me. Thwar was this stand-up guy. And I'm going to have each of you describe for me a moment that your character shared with Thwar. This could be a moment where Thwar saved your life, or where you fought back-to-back with Thwar against great odds, or where you just like shared drinks and laughter together.
How do you end up spelling this guy?
I literally took THWAR.
I think there's 2 R's on that, right?
Yeah, I think there are 2 R's. Yeah, I think you're totally right.
I mean, maybe he's the only one who can say it right. He's always correcting people, like, you know, twar. You know, it's like, twar.
Thwar.
Twar.
Well, I'm going to say that this guy knows things, and so I have gone to him for help on, he's like in Starsky and Hutch, he was, what was that guy's name in Starsky and Hutch? Sugar Baby, or I can't remember his name.
Sugar Bear.
Like the informant or something?
Yeah.
Sugar Bear.
Yeah.
Sugar Bear.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, Snoop Dogg played in the reboot, right?
Oh, yeah, in the reboot. Yeah, I remember that.
So he's a guy that I can depend on to know rumors and know things. And yeah, in the old days, him and I would occasionally pilfer together. But we're way beyond that. Like, both of us are old, and we don't do that kind of ground level crap
I'm getting
anymore.
too old for this.
Sure. Yeah.
Can we make him a halfling like me?
Yeah, I love that. Why not? I love the idea that he's a bit of an informant. He's got his ear to the ground, certainly. Awesome. How does
Julian
know?
Okay, so yeah, so this was a funny thing. So I was sitting there in the library of what is it? The town we're in?
Retkra.
Retkra.
The city, the country of Retkra.
The country of Retkra. I was sitting in the library, and I was asking the librarian a few questions, and then I went back to my book, and all of a sudden someone comes and taps me on the shoulder, and I look, and it's this dude. This was a few years ago, and he's like, "I heard you asking about such and such," and I was like, "Yeah." And then he turns out that he knew something about that, and then he recommended some books, and then he invited me over for some drinks and to talk about stuff, because he apparently knows a lot. And then over the years, I just kind of kept in contact, because every now and then I'll have a question, and he's a good resource. And then oftentimes I'm a good resource for him too, because I'm a deep diver on certain topics, and so. Yeah, we sort of develop an academic relationship.
Awesome, I love it. So this Thwar guy seems very knowledgeable. He definitely seems like a helpful guy to know, certainly. Adam, how about Gerkus. How does he know?
Gerkus actually has done a lot of traveling and wants to meet new people wherever he goes. So he tends to go to social gathering places. And one of the places he went to had an open mic night, and Thwar was there sharing some poetry.
That's pretty good.
Awesome.
Did the two of you connect in that open mic night? Like, did you end up talking with each other, that kind of thing?
Yeah,
Or?
Gerkus is not a performer. Let me just say that right now. That is not Gerkus's. But Gerkus does like to talk to people. So he was enjoying the poetry that Thwar was sharing, and then they struck up a conversation, became fast friends.
Awesome.
Gerkus's genuine enthusiasm about the world was inspiring to
Thwar is certainly a appreciator of enthusiasm about the world. You're all meeting for the first time at Thwar's funeral.
Oh,
You see what I did there?
Wow.
I saw that coming. I know this trick. I wanted to make him a sweet man just so we could enjoy his funeral even more.
It's that much worse. You're all at his funeral. It actually so happens to be the case that the funeral is in Retkra, and so it was an unfortunate but convenient opportunity for each of you to sort of go there. It wasn't that far away from where any of you happened to be anyway. You were invited to the funeral.
Well, I was seeking him out for information about the key anyway, so. And then I found out he was dead, and I went to the funeral.
You were given a specific invitation. Somebody tracked you down, like a mail carrier, basically. Tracked you down and said, this has been following you around, and this is for you. And it has your name. It specifically calls you out to attend this funeral, and that apparently you were named in his will for a specific item.
Okay, and a quick question. Are we in a city, like the capital of Retkra, or did we figure this out?
Good question. We actually don't know.
I want to live in the
we're
city that, I want to live in a city.
So I think the country of Retkra, especially because it's got these airships, is pretty wealthy and has quite a lot of large cities. But I like the idea that there's a capital city, which is where it's sort of defined by this is where the Senate meets, which is why it's sort of the capital city.
And this is probably where I moved to because they probably would have had the largest libraries there.
You are not the only one to be appreciative of knowledge. Certainly a Senate of Wizards would also be very, very appreciative of knowledge. So I'm imagining that the capital city also has the largest library in Retkra. Let's name the city then. Kirk, why don't you give me the first letter?
R.
Berto.
I.
Adam.
N.
I'm going to say G. Let's go backwards. Adam.
O.
Berto.
D.
Kirk.
I.
Ringoti?
Ringati.
Ringati? The city of Ringati?
Ringo die.
Ringo die. It's very
Ringati.
anti-Beatles.
Ringati.
I think
Ringo
Ringati.
die.
The city of Ringati, which is where this funeral is taking place, basically just outside the city, actually. You were all named in this letter to go. What's really unusual about this is that some of you haven't seen Thwar in maybe years. It's been a long time, and you've had a relationship with him, but not in such a way that you like have stayed in very, very close contact. It seems unusual for him to gift you something in his will, certainly, but it also maybe not for Kirk, maybe not for Uncle Blaze, but for the other two characters, like you didn't know him that well. You're not like long friends from childhood or anything like that. So it seems a little unusual to be invited to his funeral. However, when you go to his funeral, you can tell that there are actually not a lot of people here. There are the three of you, and then there are about 5 other people who have showed up who are dressed in dark clothing and who are sort of keeping to themselves. They don't really say much to each other. They don't say much to what's going on. And there's sort of not a priest, but there's just well, he's a lawyer, really. He seems to be the one who's sort of leading the funeral. And it's both the funeral and the bequeathing all in one. It's a strange experience that you're having as you're literally standing over the casket of your friend that is being lowered into the ground. And this priest is sort of saying a few words about Thwar, and then also apparently going to read right then and there and hand off whatever items it is that he has given to people. As he's standing there and he's reading these words, and he's pretty dry, and he's saying, Thwar would have wanted everybody to know that he has left all of his wealth and riches to a nearby orphanage. All of the things that he has acquired over time, he believes should go back to those who deserve it to have it the most, except for a few specific items. And then he reads off only 2 items. The first one is a map, and the map is given to all 3 of you. And he hands the map. He says, this item is for the 3 of you. Ulian, Girkas, and he actually uses your full name, Uncle Blaze.
Blazenar Dardragon.
Blazenar Dardragon. Are you here?
Here, present.
Yes.
Here, present.
He motions and he hands you this sort of folded up old piece of paper. And then he says, and to his daughter, I leave only my signet ring. And you can see there is a woman who is here who just seems in tears. But she's older. She is a halfling, but she is definitely an adult. And she walks up and she's in tears, but she's very quiet. And she collects the signet ring. And then you watch as the lawyer sort of taps the side of the coffin, and the coffin slowly lowers into the ground. And the lawyer stands there in silence for some time. And I'm going to have everybody roll me perception checks. The very first roll with your new characters.
So, Bertie, you can actually, yeah, well, if you want to, but you can also just like press the thing in the.
But I have a new dice roller.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I got an 8.
Okay.
I got a 19.
19 as well.
Maybe it happened above my head.
What you notice? I mean, maybe you're looking down into the pit that your friend is being lowered into, Blaze. But Ulian and Girkas, the 2 of you notice that the 4 other people who are at this funeral who didn't receive anything seem to be taking up some very tactical positions around you and around Thwar's daughter, who I'm going to name Lily. And you notice that they're wearing very dark robes, but a few of them are definitely pulling something out of their robes as they're sort of surrounding around you.
Okay.
We don't need to roll any sort of insight for this. I'm assuming pulling dark things out of dark robes
it looks dangerous.
Bad news.
They haven't said anything, and they weren't named in the reading, and there's not a lot of other people here, and they look suspicious for sure.
Can I try to... I'm not that intimidating, but I'm also a dragonborn who's pretty cool. Can I, make eye contact with one of them, and then I picture Girkas holding up his fist and, charging up this sunbolt thing that he's got? It's an intimidation tactic. I want to, have a glowing fist and indicate that this is not the time for them to be doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead and roll me an intimidation check. And you can use your strength for this, I think.
Ooh, cool, because my intimidation is terrible.
Very
Okay.
clearly a strength-based intimidation.
I got a 15 on my intimidation.
Okay. You watch as he's clearly like focused. He's got his eyes kind of focused down, and he's clearly focused on his task at hand. And you can see he is in fact pulling a dagger from his cloak, and he sees you, and then his eyes go a little bit wide, and you watch as like sweat builds a little on his brow, and then his eyes sort of drift to the side just next to you, and you're going to use that as an indication that somebody is attacking you from the side. That's like your cue that like he's clearly looking at somebody else to take you out. But he pulls out his dagger and he's going to hold it to Lily's throat as he sort of leaps behind her. And he just turns and he says, "Give us the ring and the map, and there will be no other problems." And I think that's where we're going to end.
Okay. Whoa.
So with that, we've got a lot more backstory. We've got a lot more stuff in our world, and a little bit of a starting place for our characters to start off at. But my question for you this time, rather than doing a spotlight for everybody, which we could totally do, but I'm actually going to change it up a little bit for our game this time. And my question for you is, what is a thing you're really looking forward to for next time?
I'll go first. So, I mean, I was sitting here while you were describing what's happening. I'm looking at my spells, and I'm like, okay, what can I do? And it really is so different. Obviously, you guys are way more used to this. Because even in a video game, like, it does, like you have the buttons, and so sure, I got to be like, okay, which button? But then there's like a little menu and whatever. The point is right now, I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe I could levitate something. Or no, I could read their thoughts. Oh, okay. And it's really exciting and at the same time a little overwhelming. So I'm really excited to see. And also, I was trying to figure out, because my character is not, they're not particularly empathetic to emotions. Like, they are very much like facts and knowledge. And if you have a friendship with me, it's because we share knowledge and stuff. So I was like, thinking like, he's not going to care that someone's crying. He may not care someone's holding a dagger. Like, he's not like evil or anything, but he's like, well, I don't know. I don't have a relationship with this person. So like right now, but these things were going through my head. So I'm really excited to see. Plus then I was like freaking out about, what is my voice? I thought about my voice, but I haven't like practiced it. So what am I going to say? So I'm excited.
Awesome.
I'm excited to see how in the hell our three characters are going to get along, because I can't imagine we're all like, we all chose goody good characters, and there's not one good character to kind of bring us together, and so
Three's company.
I'm curious as to how we are going to manage to stay in character and also metagame a little bit to help us move along the story.
I do picture that every single one of us would have wanted to be the one to grab the map. Like, not a single one of us.
Yeah,
Like,
like
hey,
everybody all
at
reached
second,
out
right?
at the same time.
We all are, like, we all have that need to be the one.
There's
to grab
only
the
one map. Is that the deal? Yeah.
Yeah, we may actually need to resolve next time who actually was the one who. Everybody's sort of tugging on it. Who's the one who's actually holding it right now?
I think it's Gerkas as the tallest, strongest one person. So we can cross that bridge next week. I'm looking. So Shush, the last character I played, was very much a support character, and in combat specifically. And we're about to get into a combat, and I'm like, Gerkas just gets to punch things. So it gets to take on a little more of that Grollo, like, tank energy. So I'm looking forward to Gerkas being able to punch things and shoot beams of sunlight out of his hands, like a full-on X-Men.
Nice.
Awesome. I love it. Actually, Kirk, you raised a really great point. One of the things that Adam and I will sometimes coach players at our table with is your character's motivation may sometimes come at odds with staying together with the rest of the group or working together with these people in the group. And one of the really interesting things for you to do is that good characters aren't characters that always follow whatever it is that their character's doctrine is. So the really good characters are the ones that are faced with difficult choices and then choose something else even though it's against their character. And then you have to figure out as a person who's creating that character why they made that choice. And so this is a great opportunity, and you guys will have more of this chance when we play our next game to jump in and be like, well, I know my character is going to stick around with these people, but I have to decide why. And that might be at odds with like the actual motivation of my character. My character
Or
might be
you got to get creative or something.
right, exactly. I might need to come up with a really creative reason as to why my character wants to stick around. And that actually just makes for, if you can do that well, that makes for an even more fun character. The really, really good loner characters that are in the back and in the dark and want to stay by themselves, the ones that are done really well, like Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, are done really well because they still want to be with the rest of the group. So even though he's a loner who's smoking by himself in the darkness of the back of the pub, he's still like reaches out and tries to help the hobbits and keeps trying to be a part of the group, even though he's also kind of the loner and he's by himself and he's got a mysterious background. And that's what makes him a good character, is that even though he's the loner, he doesn't go off alone. He still wants to stay with the group and stay to be a part of something. He is struggling with the idea and identification of being a loner while at the same time wanting to belong.
Yeah, cool.
Awesome. Well, do you guys have any questions about any of the process that we went through today, anything like that?
Well, for those listening, I know that Adam and Adam will do this sometimes, where they will coach people on how to use different kind of voices, you know, in character. Like I'm actually gonna do Don Corleone. And make you an offer you can't refuse. You know. But there are all these different ways that Adam Davis has these different sliders, if you will. Like you can have really fast voices, or you can have really slow voices, or you can have really high voices or really low voices, or you can have really intense voices, or there's all these different types of parameters you can put on a good voice. It's particularly important for DMs, because DMs have to often make a unique voice for all the NPCs. But for PCs as well. Last time when I played, I just chose not to do any voice because I'm embarrassed. But I feel like this time I have enough self-confidence to do a voice. So that's another element that we could have fleshed out a little bit in terms of defining. If you're running a game for a group of kids, you might want to go around and teach how to do different voices and have them choose that, because it is a bit of a stretch socially for some kids to step out of their shell and to adopt an improv other voice. But it really exemplifies when you're speaking in character and when you're not. It's a very helpful tool and parameter to use when you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
People will often think that they have to do accents as voices. And there's a lot you can do with your voice that's not a full accent. So especially if you have some sensitivities to the culture that you're trying to replicate, you might not want to do accents, because there's a lot of accents that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing for a myriad of reasons. And that's okay too. And even if I want to do a French accent, which I probably wouldn't be offending anybody if I did a bad French accent. The other important thing to remember is that there's no France in our world. So Adam in our last campaign had a Boston accent, but there's no Boston. So there's no Bostonite who's going to say that's not how it sounds, because people in Pahiha can sound like whatever they want to. So there's a nice little bit of liberty there too. We can talk more about voices next time too. I haven't come up with a voice for Gerkus yet either. I'm imagining he's going to be a dragonborn, so I imagine it's going to be a little bit lower than my voice.
One of the sort of important things to keep in mind, especially for the people who are listening who might be game masters or dungeon masters themselves, is the dungeon master being willing to talk in a bunch of different voices and be silly really plays a really significant role in encouraging the players to do the same. One of the things that we see a lot for our players is many players who are nervous, who don't want to do a voice for their character, and over time, as I'm doing more and more sort of ridiculous voices for many characters, they get a chance to see both how fun that is, as well as how much that can play a role in me defining a character. Adam actually does even a lot of body stuff to define the characters that he's playing. And he'll hunch over and he'll squinch up his eyes and make faces, and that's a part of him taking on that character. Every time that character comes out, he will always lean over and make that same face. And those are all great ways to encourage that embodiment or encourage the voice embodiment of the character. And one of the things that I have certainly found is true for myself over the years is that the voice that I give to a character often defines who the character is, sometimes more than whatever choices I make. So when I have a character that takes on, a Eastern European accent or something, this is great time. You will have awesome time. That character always kind of winds up being the same kind of character, because that is, for some reason, an association I've created over the years of doing that voice with this kind of character that it winds up being. And so you may find.
Sorry. I was muted. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue. So I said a dumb joke and my mic was muted, and thank God, because I scared everyone.
I will imagine how funny that was.
Yeah,
I'm laughing.
It was such a good joke.
It was in Russia something that it was one of those jokes.
Yeah. In Russia, character voice defines you.
Yeah.
It is interesting that the name of our kingdom does have like a little bit of a Slavic sort of chlitkra.
Well, actually, further interesting is that these Vidalkin creatures come from this place Ravnica, which is essentially, as described, is like Eastern European-ish. So
maybe this is actually pretty similar to your character's homeland. Maybe the culture.
Yeah,
here
maybe
is
that's
similar
why I was comfortable moving there.
I like that idea a lot. Well, one thing I will say is I love starting new campaigns because with all of these new characters, there's so much opportunity to deepen everything. There's so many unanswered questions, and my favorite place to be in any D&D game is the unanswered questions, because then all we get to do is just fill in all the pieces and all the blanks.
Great.
All right. Well, that does it for that episode, John. Right? John's right.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, everyone. Tune in next time when we actually start the campaign, see if our characters like each other, and explore the world that Adam Johns is going to create for us. I can't wait. There's so many different ways I could see this going wrong, and not a lot of ways I can see it going right. So I'm curious to see how it's going to go right. Everyone out there, please take care of yourself and get the key to knowledge, because
You deserve it.